Hello, Teresa Phelps Martin, bringing you the energetic signature for November 5th to November 11th, 2022. I'm going to tell you right now, I have a case of the yawns. It's a very dreamy day as I record this. This is the window I have to record it. So if you can bear with me if I yawn, please bear with me. I do believe the yawns are my guidance system asking me to tell you all that this is a week to really take extra care of yourself. Like if you knew you were going to run into a challenging time, like if you had a heads up that things are going to be difficult, you could freak out, you could deny, you could pretend like it's not going to happen. It doesn't, those things don't happen to you. Or you could blame the world around you. Or you could accept it and be compassionate and care for yourself and center yourself in your values, center yourself in the awareness of how you're taking care of yourself, how you're choosing to engage, what you're connecting with, what you're aligning with, and how you're going to allow for it, right? So this is the energy of this week, all right? The week will start, the moon for this week will transit, the sun will stay in Scorpio, okay? So then that means the moon's gonna transit through Aries, through Taurus. Taurus opposes the Scorpio energy, which means that's a full moon. It also means it's a total lunar eclipse. Then we'll move out of the eclipse and the moon will transit into Gemini on the 9th and the 10th and then the 11th, and then it'll move into Cancer in the evening of the 11th. So that's the journey of the moon. Look at this part of your chart. Look at the archetypal energy of Aries, the go-getter, the leader, the initiator, the breakthrough, break free, and begin again. It can be very strong and fierce. We also have daylight savings time ending, so our circadian rhythms are going to be off. So right there, here comes the yawn. Is the reminder to get up with the sun, go to bed with the sun, forget the regular clock, but really align with nature to help you adapt to this change. Then the moon will go void, of course, the evening of the 6th, okay? And then the moon is gonna move into Taurus at 12:15 a.m., so midnight, right? And so this energy of the moon moving into Taurus energy does not like change. Taurus archetype is about being steady and grounded and sensual. It's really about engaging in this life, right? Being able to be of this material realm, to see it, to hear it, to taste it, to smell it. It is so steady, solid, and loyal, which is beautiful, right? So how can we be steady, loyal, and present in our reality of being challenged? So we have to accept these great changes. So when the eclipses come, we have big change, not just individual, it's nothing personal, it's global. It's humanity as a whole because humans live on this planet of Earth. Animals are affected by it, so many things. So we really want to look at what do we need to release. That's the sun in Scorpio, Venus is in Scorpio, Mercury's in Scorpio. They're all answering to this Mars energy and Pluto energy. Mars is in Gemini, Mars is retrograde. We got to go back and look at that storyline and how we're connecting with siblings. And in that connection to our immediate environment, come into the immediacy of you, your inner world, your articulation of life, and how are you reviewing it to really support yourself in amidst all this change, this global change, this political change, this environmental change. So the eclipse happens on election day. So just know it's going to be complicated. Perhaps utilize early voting. And I heard somebody share, it's just, I'm not getting political, but realize that we live in a country where voting is the freedom. So it rules our life. So you don't want to deny that you have a say-so or an impact, but really choose mindfully, choose wisely, engage, align with what your values are. And when you engage, then you allow the process. But this eclipse, this full moon and sun opposition holds a ton of challenging energies. It is a red line showdown. So we know it's going to be difficult. Don't take it personally. Don't be scared. Just realize that there's challenges ahead for us. It's been challenging. So we're kind of seeing these challenges playing out, all right? One thing is we have Venus opposing Uranus. This is part of the challenge. We have Venus squaring salad. Saturn retrograde. This is part of the challenge. This ability to embrace the feminine, to slow down, to really look at the way we're caring for ourselves compassionately is what's under review. And we're going to be pushed to that edge to really break through, because challenge creates change, right? It is the energy like fire. If you get really hot, you're going to sweat, right? If you get really cold, you're going to shiver. So we want to do the things to initiate the change in a way that we're doing it mindfully. And we're really making that self-awareness, or self-care, which is self-awareness, a priority. Sleep, hydration, nutrition, exercise, creating those boundaries. Taurus energy, earth energies are boundaries. Bring them back to your values. That value system is building your future. And this is a lot of this T-square with Venus, and the sun will eventually move through it, and the moon's going to move through it, that we're feeling, because this moon is conjunct Uranus, which is all of the great change of this material realm that we've been experiencing since 2017, but has really been ramped up the past 2 years. So with that being said, how can you look at your habits, your patterns, your recognition of your own talents, and what do you need to let go of? This is the scorpionic energy. Change comes, like if you put something into the fire, you pull it out, it's completely different. Under pressure, the piece of coal turns into the diamond. So realizing this diamond ability, when you can release the murky energies that are inhibiting your ability to value your own gifts, and realize we need the many expressions, we need the ability to engage one another to bring these gifts forward. All right, the sun will be conjunct Mercury. So Mercury is going to be in that energy of the sun hiding. So the narrative is going to be difficult. Mars is in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. And then Mercury also rules Virgo. So that Virgo energy, that Gemini energy, that Scorpio energy is being challenged. The words, it might be a wonderful time to listen to the deep waters, listen to the undercurrent. What are you being challenged, and how are you reviewing that narrative of how you're aligning and taking action as you begin to step forward? The eclipse energy is going to mandate the change. It's how we evolve. It's how we no longer stay stuck. But remember, the acceptance is sometimes the hardest part of it all. But then if we can come to our values, then we can see our behaviors. We can understand how our thoughts, our inner feelings, our feelings inform our thoughts. They inform our mood. They inform the actions we take. So how do we overcome that? Through that acceptance, through that connection, through being mindful and intentional in our engagement, really putting forth the effort to align, and then creating the room to allow. Creating the room to allow. This doesn't mean you just sit back and watch the show. You're still participating in your life. You realize that you have agency to engage, and that engagement means you give the space to let the energy unfold, and unfolding it will. Okay, so if the sun is conjunct Mercury and then Mercury leaps ahead, then Mercury is opposite Uranus. So Venus is opposite Uranus moving into the weekend. Then we have the eclipse. Then we have the sun and Mercury being conjunct. And then we have Mercury being opposite Uranus. Then that means the next day we have sun opposite Uranus. This is where we can have really big cosmic downloads, major insights of how we can break free. So this eclipse, even though it might be challenging and red line everywhere, those challenges are there to push us into new realms of understanding, of existence. So give yourself that room to be open to that energy. When the moon goes void and then the moon moves into Gemini, are you able to receive the messages? Can you get curious of the ways you need to make change? And then the moon will move through Gemini on the 9th and the 10th. And then we have Mercury squaring Saturn, which that means soon we'll have the sun squaring Saturn, which happens on the 11th. And then we have Venus trining Neptune, which will be sweet. There'll be this kind of wave and flow, like the bath of the renewal, of the shavasana, of the respite, and the need for that to dream. However, just realize Neptune is being very much challenged by Mars right now. So our actions versus our desires are in alignment with that big sort of unseen energy come the 10th, but we're still being challenged in the way we're aligning with it and the way we're taking action with it. So just realize that challenge is going to be part of the narrative, right? So how can you lean into that unseen support? How can you realize those wild and bizarre dreams? I know I've been having, I'm a heavy dreamer. They have been really, really beyond this realm. And realizing, for me, I'm taking it as that there are challenges and ugly parts of this existence, but I can either be devoured by them or I can connect to this higher perspective, this belief in the goodness and the compassion of the universe, and realign to find new direction, to reclaim that authority and agency over the way I choose to engage, even though there might be a lot of oppressing energy, whether it's the system or the environment or the chaos that surrounds us, that I can cultivate the skills that I need to step forward. And then also know when I'm in that place of burnout to really reclaim and recapture and rest well into this new storyline. So on the 11th, the moon will go void in the afternoon, but it moves pretty quickly into Cancer. So we'll just use those days after that. Be curious of your embodiment. Be curious of the way you're engaging. Be curious of the narrative, because if the moon is transiting through Gemini, that means it's going to carry the storyline of the eclipse from Uranus into Gemini, and it's going to carry that energy, that message to Mars first, because the moon will be conjunct Mars. Mars will get the message first. Mars is going backwards to review how it's engaging, how it's commerce with its environment and its engagement with others. And then the moon will move into Cancer the same day that the sun will square Saturn and Venus will be quincunx Mars. I know that's technical. Just realize Saturn's in Aquarius, the sun's in Scorpio. The sun always is in Scorpio every year. We're bringing closure to the season. If you've ever done yoga with me, and I do it usually during Scorpio season, we focus on how we exit, right? In yoga, the practice of yoga, you always exit with Shavasana. You go from being horizontal to vertical again, and you intentionally have closure. The gesture, the salutation of namaste. You are participating in a ritual that is saying, I see the light, I've reclaimed it, I've remembered it, I'm honoring it in myself, and as I step forward, I am seeing the light in the world and the people around me. This is a practice of gratitude. Can you see the good? Can you find that connection? Because as that sun transits out of Scorpio, we move into that Sagittarian energy. And so we feel the change because we have the renewal of faith. The sun being in Scorpio is that intimacy. It is the deep waters. It is, I gave you the expression a few weeks ago that I heard somebody else use. It is the power washing. It is the blazing off. The fields are settling. The trees are dropping their leaves. You might be of the beliefs that you leave the leaves on the ground for nature. You might be of the belief that you actually clean it up to help with bugs and pests. It's a dance. There's a fluidity. We need both. We don't need to get rid of everything. We can compost. Scorpio is the compost. It is allowing for the dissolve so there can be the rebirth. Saturn's in Aquarius. Saturn is our structures, our governing bodies, the contractor, the rules, the timekeeper. And it's in Aquarius that is in big picture. It is how we're caring for the hopes and dreams, other people's children. And in this energy of our future that we can pour forward, they're both fixed signs. One is in water, one is in air. They're masculine, they're feminine. How are they challenging one another to be able to move forward? This is the closing square. So how are we integrating these parts? Think of the waning moon, that last quarter moon. How are we taking the lessons of what we've learned and integrating them, weaving them in so we can actually start to heal this energy of so much change? And when that Venus energy is quincunx Mars, I really believe this dance with Venus and Mars right now. I mentioned this before. Saturn and Jupiter walked into Aquarius on the December 21st, right? It was an astronomical event that you could see with your own two eyes. A lot of people called it the Star of Bethlehem. A lot of people call it the beginning, the initiatory stage of age of Aquarius, this new realm, whatever you want to call it. It's not coincidence, okay? It is a very beautiful, complex system that came together this year. Mars and Venus walked hand in hand. Mars is considered the malefic, Saturn is the malefic. Venus is the benefic, Jupiter is the benefic. So what we have are these dualities hand in hand walking into this new energy, this new phase. So Mars and Venus right now are really, you could think of it in that gender fluidity. How is Mars learning how to be receptive and realize that part of action is in action? And how is Venus in that ability to really claim that ability to care, to not just live in that hopeless survival mode, but really get into that energy of thrive, which means you give yourself more space, more room, more ability to articulate your needs. So there's that subtle hint, in my opinion, that this is a little bit of the undercurrent of energy in this eclipse. So that is the main signature. I would recommend that you really honor what you need, right? Like a little personal story, I am realizing that teaching yoga at this juncture of my life is not serving the healing of my body right now. It doesn't mean that yoga isn't good. What it means is that I need more rest to heal some of the side effects of having 3 surgeries in 6 months. 3 surgeries where I was deeply invaded. I mean, my breasts were amputated, and it was something new and foreign in my body. And how did I adjust without having the ability to use my arms? For a great period, I overcompensated for my rib cage down. Beautiful, but then I dove straight back into things. And right now, I need to pull back, give pause to the way I use my body and use my body in new ways so that I can truly heal. It's heartbreaking to have had to make that request to pause my teaching schedule. It was heartbreaking, but at the same time, I'm having authority over this choice, whereas COVID mandated it. The choices of the places of where I was teaching mandated it. Not so much that they asked me to stop, but their choices of how they wanted to move forward mandated because of the misalignment, right? So it's a different journey. It's a different juncture right now. So if this is just an example. So yoga for me right now is more sleep, longer meditations, longer walks, a slower pace, coming back to core stability. So you'll see me in Pilates, because that is the only thing right now that's not causing more harm to my hips and my low back. So this is that Scorpio. It's the dissolve of what we've known. What has the season been? What have the patterns been that are no longer life serving and sustaining? That corn crop cannot survive the winter. So it offers its fruits, and then it decorates the season, and then it falls away and the crops get churned, and then we have a new season to plant. It is such a sacred and beautiful time that don't watch how you're going into this dark season. Pay attention of, are you just complaining about the days getting shorter and the nights being longer? Or can you really look at this as it's a time to move inward. It's a time to ground and nourish, so that when we have this rebirth of spring, when the days come long again, we're not exhausted. We're not so misaligned with the natural rhythm, but we're actually nourished. We come forward with brilliance and beauty and light. So use your meditations. Engage in those simple practices. I heard, this is my last little segue, I listened to these two 7th graders be so dramatic, and it was sweet and annoying, but they were arguing over the characters of the book, right? And they were being dramatic, and that was part of their thing, right? Like, they're clearly drama kids. And they were blaming the woman for the man being killed, right? Because he had an affair, and then she ended up killing him, right? I was like, I can't believe you guys are reading this, but whatever. But they both were blaming the female, and I didn't say anything. I just asked for them to not be so loud in their dramas. And so I reflected, and I was like, really? Is it because the woman didn't have permission to say she needed help? If she wanted love and took possession of something, that's misaligned, right? There are so much in therapy that talks about loneliness as the abandonment of your own self. So how can you ask for those needs to have care, to not do it alone? I talked about this with the Venus star point that we've moved into. How can we really be in that place to call a friend, to reach out, not to try to prove or accomplish or produce? Have the goals, have the direction, but incorporate the pauses so you can intercept the automatic patterns that are not serving. All right, I will pause there. Be good to yourself. Let your meditations be baths, be essential oils. Let your meditations be cooking root vegetables. Let your mindfulness practices be walking and letting the leaves fall around you, and that you can really see the beauty in the change of season, that you can feel this shift in the light and the rhythm of our days as part of the sacred ritual of being human. And in that humanness, that you can realize you are mortal. It will all come to an end, that you can really be conscious. You can slow your movement down, that when you're practicing, when you're at the end of a run or the end of a walk, the end of a pose, the end of a conversation, that you can breathe into it, exhale out completely, and truly initiate closure. Whether it's a hug, whether it's stopping the call, whether it's realizing you're done watching this video, you're gonna pause and be intentional as you step into your next thing. I will be back with you next week for the energetic signature, which will be interesting. And just know that later this month is the Gold Star Day. It's an event that happens twice a year, and that's on the 20th. And so there's this really sweet energy that is awaiting us. We just have to figure things out along the way and allow the time for it all to come together. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for putting forward the energy to be real, to be true, and be you. It's the greatest gift of a lifetime, is to be exactly who you are. And no, those are not my words, they're Joseph Campbell's, but it is the gift. So discover who you are, embrace who you are, and call forward the help so you know you're not alone in this journey to become exactly who you're meant to be.